You slept last night. You probably slept the night before too. And yet, here you are, tired again. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. The kind that follows you from Monday to Friday and somehow is still there on Sunday afternoon when you haven't done anything at all. You've probably told yourself it's because you're not disciplined enough, not productive enough, not doing enough of the right things. But what if that's not it? What if the exhaustion you feel isn't a personal failing, but a completely rational response to the world you're actually living in? Because the research tells a very different story from the one we've been sold. And once you understand what's actually draining you, some of it starts to make a lot more sense. There are different kinds of exhaustion, and most conversations about tiredness only talk about one of them. Physical exhaustion is the one we understand. You worked hard with your body. You need rest. You sleep. You recover. That system makes sense and it works. But there are two other kinds of exhaustion that are far more common in modern life and far harder to recover from. The first is cognitive exhaustion. Your brain processes an enormous amount of information every single day. Every decision you make, from what to eat to how to respond to that message to whether to take that meeting, costs mental energy. Scientists call this decision fatigue. And the modern world asks you to make more decisions before 9 a.m. than most people in human history made in an entire day. Your phone alone delivers hundreds of micro decisions every hour. Swipe or engage. Reply or ignore. Click or scroll. Each one is tiny, but they add up. And by the afternoon, your brain is running on empty, even if your body never moved. The second kind is emotional exhaustion. This is the one nobody talks about. The constant low-level anxiety of living in a world that never fully switches off. The weight of global news that arrives directly to your pocket every hour. The social performance of maintaining an online presence. The pressure to be productive, present, successful, healthy, socially aware, and financially stable, simultaneously, all the time. That kind of exhaustion doesn't show up on a sleep tracker. But it is real, and it is relentless. Every generation has faced hardship. That's not the argument here. But there are specific features of modern life in 2025 that create a uniquely exhausting combination that previous generations simply didn't face in the same way. The always-on culture. Before smartphones, when you left work, you left work. The commute home was a decompression. The evening was genuinely yours. Now, work follows you everywhere. Emails at 10 p.m, Slack messages on Sunday. The expectation of availability that never fully switches off. Your nervous system never gets the signal that the day is done. The comparison machine. For the entire history of humanity, people compared themselves to their immediate social circle. Maybe a few dozen people at most. Now you compare yourself to millions. Every day you see the highlight reels of the most successful, most attractive, most adventurous people on the planet, and your brain, which evolved to process a village, not a global audience, registers that comparison as a threat, as falling behind, as not enough. The uncertainty load. Previous generations had more economic and social certainty. You'd get a job, stay in it, buy a house, raise a family. The path was clearer. You might not have liked it, but you knew what it was. You're navigating a world where the job market is being restructured by AI. The housing market is closed to most of your generation. Relationships are more complex and less stable than they've ever been. And the political and environmental future feels genuinely uncertain in ways that keep a low-grade anxiety running in the background of everything. That is an enormous cognitive and emotional load. And carrying it every day is exhausting. Burnout is not just being really tired. The World Health Organization officially classified burnout as an occupational phenomenon in 2019. They define it as a syndrome resulting from chronic workplace stress that hasn't been successfully managed. It has three dimensions: exhaustion, not just tiredness, a profound depletion, where even small tasks feel enormous. Getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. Replying to a simple message feels disproportionately hard. Cynicism and detachment. You stop caring about things you used to care about. Work that used to feel meaningful starts to feel pointless. Relationships that used to energize you start to feel like obligations. You find yourself going through the motions, present in body, but absent in every other way. And reduced efficacy. The sense that nothing you do makes a difference, that your effort doesn't translate to results, that you're working harder than ever and falling further behind. That feeling that you're failing, even when you're objectively not. The frightening thing about burnout is that it doesn't announce itself. It creeps in gradually. Most people don't realize they're burned out until they're deep in it, because the early stages just feel like being a bit tired, a bit flat, a bit less motivated than usual. And in a culture that celebrates busyness and pushes through, the early warning signs get ignored until they can't be anymore. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Most of what we call rest isn't actually rest. Scrolling through your phone after work is not rest. It is more cognitive input, more decisions, more comparison, more stimulation for a brain that desperately needs quiet. Watching Netflix until midnight is not rest. It keeps your nervous system engaged and disrupts the sleep quality that follows. Even socializing, which is good and necessary, is not rest for everyone. For many people, especially those who lean introverted, social interaction is energizing in the right doses, but depleting when it fills every gap. Genuine rest is something our culture has almost completely eliminated. The ability to be bored, to sit without input, to let your mind wander without immediately reaching for your phone to fill the silence. Neuroscience shows that this kind of unstructured mental downtime, what researchers call the default mode network, is when your brain consolidates memory, processes emotion, generates creativity, and genuinely recovers from cognitive load. We've optimized every minute of our lives and accidentally eliminated the thing our brains need most. I'm not going to tell you to meditate for 20 minutes or download a wellness app. If that works for you, great. But I want to talk about the things that actually move the needle. The first is recognizing that your exhaustion has structural causes, not personal ones. You are not failing at life. You are responding normally to an abnormal amount of pressure. That reframe matters more than it sounds, because self-blame adds an extra layer of depletion on top of everything else. The second is protecting your genuine recovery time fiercely, not scheduling rest between productive tasks. Treating rest as non-negotiable, the same way you wouldn't skip eating. Don't skip the kind of doing nothing that your nervous system actually needs. The third is reducing your information intake deliberately. Not forever, not dramatically, but consciously choosing windows where you are not consuming. No phone in the first 30 minutes of your day. No news after a certain hour. Small decisions that create real psychological breathing room. The fourth, and this is the one people resist most, is acknowledging when you need help. Chronic exhaustion and burnout are not things you think your way out of alone. Therapy, honest conversations with people you trust, medical support if you need it. The cultural pressure to just push through has costs, and they compound. None of this fixes the structural problems. The world is still demanding. The pressures are still real. But the difference between people who navigate this sustainably and people who collapse is usually not how hard they work. It's how seriously they take their own recovery. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are not failing because you're tired. You are a human being living through one of the most cognitively and emotionally demanding periods in modern history. Doing your best, with a nervous system that was never designed for this. And maybe the most radical thing you can do right now isn't to be more productive. Maybe it's to rest. Actually rest, without guilt, without the feeling that you should be doing something. You're allowed to be tired. You're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to need recovery. Drop a comment. I want to know, does this resonate? What does your exhaustion actually feel like? And has anything actually helped? I read every single one. Subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one.